Hello and welcome to another vlog. This week what I want to touch on is a perennial topic on a tangled web, and something that's certainly central to most of my writings, and that is my revulsion and rejection of terrorism, those who carry it out, those who apologise and propagandise for it, and those who wish to close their eyes and hope it wasn't happening. Now, what's prompted this has really been two sets of events. First of all, the events in Israel, and secondly, events closer to home for me in Northern Ireland. In the former instance, we saw just how deep and enduring Palestinian commitment to lasting peace is when one of their Islamic terrorists managed to successfully detonate himself in a market in Eilat, taking innocent lives with him and causing horrendous injury to those people unfortunate enough to be in the vicinity when he exploded. I think the particularly revolting thing is that Palestinian society appears to place high value on such shahids as they go about the important business of killing as many Jews as possible. And yet this is something which, by and large, the media completely ignores. It's almost as if Palestinians weren't encouraging and training, and indeed in some instances pleading with their kids and their teenagers to reach that highest value in Palestinian society, namely that of exploding yourself and taking innocent human lives with you. And I also have found it pretty repulsive to watch the endless media coverage of this, which more or less suggests that were it not for Israel insisting on defending itself, then the Palestinians wouldn't have to resort to such barbarity. It's almost as if the MSM seeks to provide a passport to Palestinian terrorism, which basically obviates them of any moral responsibility for what they do. And for me, that's absolutely sickening. And if we then compare that to an event which has happened here this week in Northern Ireland, where we've had our own local terrorists, the IRA, having a nicely contrived little meeting in Dublin and concluding that in a gesture of supreme generosity, they might be prepared to embrace policing on a number of conditions, primarily one of which is that the opportunity for them to actually gain control of policing be a timetable for them. This is being celebrated around the world. I'm sure you've heard the various headlines as a fantastic move forward. And even that stalwart so-called right-wing newspaper, The Sun, ran a headline which presented it in terms of Sinn Féin declaring unambiguous support for the police. Complete and utter rubbish, but another example of how media portrayal of what actually happens can't be trusted. You see, you cannot trust the UK media when it comes to reporting on the so-called peace process in Northern Ireland. You can't trust them because they swallow most of the hype that comes from government. The journalists are encouraged to peddle the government line. And of course, if a good little journalist wants to get on in his career, it's helpful if government ministers and other officials are friendly towards such people. And such friendliness, of course, is the payback for being understanding when it comes to rewriting government propaganda and setting it up as news. So it seemed to me, therefore, that in both Israel and in Northern Ireland, there are certain things in common. We've got terrorist groups who are confident that a combination of terrorism and political propagandizing can get them what they want. Another similarity is that the gutless Israeli government, led by Osloyd Olmert, is little better than the administration led by Peter Hain here in Northern Ireland, along with their absolutely third-rate local politicians who seem incapable of standing up to the IRA and their political propagandists and just saying, sorry, we're not interested in your empty and specious statements. Just like over in Israel, the Israeli government should be standing up to the endless Palestinian propaganda. Propaganda which the likes of Condoleezza Rice, the European Union and the United Nations seems quite content to swallow and indeed help to perpetuate. And the fact of the matter is that Israel will not have any peace until it confronts and defeats Palestinian menace. It will not have peace until it faces up to the fact that appeasement doesn't work. And that is the same lesson that we have here in Northern Ireland. For the last 10 years, we've been fed a steady drip feed of appeasement, appeasement, appeasement. And all the time, those of us who point it out are demonized. We are portrayed as if in some ways we are the enemy of peace, and somehow the enemies of sensible compromise. But as Sir Winston Churchill once pointed out, what is the point of compromise between a fireman and an arsonist? And the fact is that there is none. There is no compromise with terrorism, and each government has a sacred duty to its citizens to defend them against terrorists, rather than seek to find gutless and quizzling ways to buy off the terrorists. So that's it for this week, and speak with you next week.